The worst programmer I know. The great thing about measuring developer productivity is you can quickly identify the bad programmers. I want to tell you about the worst programmer I know and why I fought to keep him in the team. A few years ago, I wrote a Twitter thread about the best programmer I know, which I should write up as a blog post. It seems only fair to tell you about the worst one too. His name is Tim, and I want you to know how measurably unproductive he is. We were working for a well known software company at a big bank that decided to introduce individual performance metrics for appraisal and personal development purposes. This was cascaded through the organization and landed in our team in terms of story points delivered. This was after considered discussion from the department manager, who knew you shouldn't measure things like line of codes or bugs found because people can easily game these. Then there's this classic Dilbert strip. First panel, the boss saying, "Our goal is to write bug-free software. I'll pay a $10 bonus for every bug you find and fix." People replying, "Yahoo! We're rich! Yes, yes, yes!" Boss, "I hope this drives the right behavior." Sarcastic person, "I'm gonna write me a new minivan this afternoon." Instead, we would measure stories delivered, or it may have been story points. Turns out, it doesn't matter, because these represented business value. We were using something like Jira, and people would put their names next to stories, which made it super easy to generate these productivity metrics. Which brings me to Tim. Tim's score was consistently 0. Not low or just trending downwards, but literally 0. Week after week, iteration after iteration, 0 points for Tim. Well, Tim clearly had to go. This was the manager's conclusion, and he asked me to make the necessary arrangements to have Tim removed and replaced by someone who actually delivered, stories. And I flatly refused. This wasn't even a hard decision for me. I just said no. You see, the reason that Tim's productivity score was 0 is that he never signed up for any stories. Instead, he would spend his day pairing with different teammates. With less experienced developers, he would patiently let them drive while nudging them towards a solution. He would not crowd them or railroad them, but take the time to listen while carefully crafting moments of insight and learning, often as Socratic questions, what ifs, how else's. With seniors, it was more like co-creating or sparring, bringing different worldviews to bear on a problem to introduce something better than either of us would thought of on our own. Tim is a heck of a programmer, and you always learn something pairing with him. Tim wasn't delivering software. Tim was delivering a team that was delivering software. The entire team became more effective, more productive, more aligned, more idiomatic, and more fun because Tim was in the team. I explained this to my manager and invited him to come by and observe us working from time to time. Whenever he popped by, he would see Tim sitting with someone different, working on their thing, and you could be sure the quality of that thing would be significantly better and the time to value significantly lower. Yes, you can have better and faster and cheaper. It just takes discipline than when Tim wasn't pairing with people. In the end, we kept Tim and quietly dropped the individual productivity metrics in favor of team accountability, where we tracked and celebrated the business impact we were delivering to the organization as a high-performing unit. TLDR, measure productivity by all means. I am all for accountability, ideally as tangible business impact expressed in dollars saved, generated, or protected. This is usually hard, so proxy business metrics are fine too. Just don't try to measure the individual contribution of a unit in a complex adaptive system because the premise of the question is flawed. DORA metrics, for example, are about how the system of work works, whether as proper noun culture indicators or the flow of technical change into production. They measure the engine, not the contribution of the individual pistons, because that makes no sense. Also, if you ever get the chance to work with Tim, you should do that. And that was Dan North and Associates Limited article, The Worst Programmer I Know. The Primogen impression was immaculate to not selected the first and last letters in the sentence. Yeah, I remember. Why does Primogen do that? I think his argument is that it's like ClearType on Windows forcing him to do that. But yeah, this is just something that I've seen Primogen do, and I like copying it because it's stupid.